How we doing? How we feeling? Ready to get back into the lab again, yo? I'm ready to do it. Today, we are here with the third day of 12 days of live streaming with Rich UX, myself, yours truly. And today we've got the second part of my Notion productivity workshop, which I refer to as COMMANDR. Welcome, Commanders, who've already joined me from yesterday. Let's get it going. Let's let the people trickle in, as I'm sure they are, as I drop the different notifications around the streets. I'm sure you guys are ready to go yourselves, but make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you're at a computer, a laptop, desktop, anything less, and I'm worried for you. I'm worried for you. You know, there's this idea that you can run your business from a phone, and some businesses that might be true. Some businesses that might be true, but it's silly to think that the person on their phone would be faster than the person on the computer. Shout outs to a couple of the commanders I see in chat already. Joven, Kevin, Edwin, Lemon, Nick, Jessica, Anna, Edwin, Kyle, Francesco, Janu, salute. From Italy, welcome. Good to see you. Buongiorno. Hello. Just letting them trickle in, guys. We're going to get started here real quick. Where did we leave off yesterday? Let's summarize. Well, I gave you the lowdown on the critical knowledge of Notion. Today, we're going to be starting about the principles of building a dashboard. What kind of principles will you follow? Let's get into it. APM is trash on mobile phone. Yeah, you could say that again. This is where we left off yesterday, and I'm actually going to clear this, and we're going to kind of start again. I want to start fresh. I gave you sort of an intro, a primer, and that video is going to be a part of this course. It's about a couple, small videos that we kind of went through yesterday. Thank you so much for being there live with me. All of this will be compiled under richandniche.com/COMMANDR with no E at the end, of course. This is currently a free course. All the material is open source. So do with it what you will. I make no promises or claims, but after today, I think you're going to be in a substantially better position than you are at this very moment. So let's not waste much more time. Let's get into this. I want to talk first about principles. There's a few rules and principles that we're going to start out, and if we think of more, we'll add them. Okay, so here is the first one, all right? In 95% of cases, you want as little info on screen as possible. That is an overarching principle. The more info you put on the screen, the more overwhelming it can become. And it stops being practical. So you want to reduce info on screen most often. You want data above the fold. Okay, scroll less if possible. On this screen, I cannot scroll. Everything above here is above the fold. The fold is the point in where the browser will scroll. Okay. Use 2 columns thoughtfully. Consider your main devices. If you're going to be using laptop iPhone, if you're going to be using desktop iPad, if you're going to be primarily desktop, primarily iPad, primarily laptop, those situations on a case-by-case basis will determine how you use columns a little bit, the width of them, right? Because when we want to make a second column, we just have to drag any block to the right and we can get 2 columns. And if you didn't notice this yet, if I hover my mouse, there's a line and I can drag the columns. They are customizable. So how you use this on different devices, it will look differently. On mobile, there are no columns. On iPad, there are still columns. Okay. Next, use toggles relentlessly. Toggles. You can click, turn into toggle. A toggle opens up information, and that helps you put as little info on screen as possible. Toggles. Okay. You can also just go / toggle, enter, type. Okay. The final principle we're going to mention before we move on with building our own Commander dashboard is the power of the system grows in time as you add to the databases. Okay, just a few principles to get started. Bringing you back to the landing area of the course, richandniche.com/Commander. I want you to peek at Commander 1.0 now, if you haven't done so already. I want you to have a vision of what we're going to build, and this is it. This is basically the base level 1. And there's even some optimizations here that I've already discovered that make a lot of sense. Okay? There's 2 sides. There's the action zone, where you say things like, I want to do something. And below that is called the review zone. These are headers, remember? Headings with a colored background, that's all they are. And I've got a second column on the right side, and it's about 1/4 of the screen. And I currently have a toggle that says all databases. All your databases will eventually be housed here in what's known as the vault. Okay, the vault contains important information. Just think of a bank vault. You want to protect this information, and that's why it's its own separate area. Now, if you wanted, you could actually put this whole thing in a separate area, not on this page. It would still work. But I like to sometimes jump directly into full-on databases, and that's why you might want to keep it here. So what is going on here? On the left side, we're actually kind of building software. Okay, the first thing is these template blocks, which we're going to get to. But what's really cool is you can click these and it will prompt you with a checklist. And you can check those off. And I write up here, keep it clean, because at the end, when you're done, you want to delete it. So you have this little starter kit right here. That's the very first element of Commander. You click things and it tells you what to do. So what your goal is to put your main routines here. And notice I've suggested different ways. You could do your daily routine. You could do your content routine, or you could do a client-based routine. So every morning when I get to my Commander, I typically am like, okay, what day is it? I'm doing this, and I'm going to do this. And then I have my day's checklist set out for me. And if I accomplish that, we're probably making good progress. Okay, this is just a preview. Okay, I just want you to get a sense of what we're going to build and the functions, and then we'll do them one at a time. With these next toggles, what we're doing here is we are calling up databases. We're calling up the databases by linking. Remember, I can go to any existing database, and whenever there's 3 dots, I can copy the link. I can do it from here as well. I know we're going a bit fast. Stick with me. Whenever I copy the link to anything that's a database, and I go and I paste it, it asks you if you want to create a linked database. Okay, and it brings it in. And that's great. Now you're thinking, why would I need my database over here and my database over here? So what the difference is going to be is that these areas, you will be filtering things very specifically so that you are shown the most important information, yet all the information is still in the vault. Okay? So what it is a combination of information and data inside of a vault in each specific database. Each database can be related to another database, which we did yesterday. And on the left side, we're using the functions of Notion to create a software-like system that's customized to our own daily needs. You know, you could say, well, why don't I just use like a checklist app on my phone? Why don't I just use, some sort of Kanban board? Why don't I use Asana? You could. But my discovery has been that when you combine the databases with all of the custom information display capabilities with Notion, when you combine the effects of toggles, colors, databases, and tabs, I don't think you can match with any other tool. Okay, so this is where we're going today. We're basically going to build this out, and you're going to get a chance to sort of fill it out as you go along. I'm not going to spend too much time to give you that time. If you're fast enough, you can try and keep up on a separate monitor. But if that's not the case, I recommend you watch and digest and rewatch. Pause, build, pause, build. So now that I've shown you the preview, I'd like to come back to where I was yesterday. And what I had demonstrated for you was, let's create a few projects and let's create a few tasks. And then let's relate those tasks using what's called the relation function. So let's just slow down here. What's going on? We have a lot of information in our life. We have our goals, we have our objectives, we have our projects, our tasks, the people, the process, the reviews and reports, the ideas, the content. If we can commit to cataloging those things in the same database over time, we'll not only be more organized, but we'll be able to see everything that's on our mind and on our desk, so to speak, all in one place. And there's another feature which I have not revealed to you yet. It's when you're in a database, you can create a template entry. So let me give you an example, and we might not get to this today, but likely tomorrow. Let's say you want to create a blog post. And every time you create a blog post, you forget what to do. You forget the steps. You forget the order. What we can do in Notion is we can click new entry on our content database. But when we click that, we can select a template. And instead of populating a blank note, it will actually populate your own created template that you could follow along as you enter. Let me give you a preview to that, because I think that's hard to imagine. But if I can show you what that looks like, you might just get even more excited. Here we go. Imagine you're going to create some content, and let's just go directly into the content database. When I click new, I'm given an empty note, and I can just start typing. And I get a note up here, but that doesn't really do much for me. Great, I'm organized, but how does that help me work through my processes? If I'm going to be a commander, is it enough just to be organized, or don't I have to be able to execute as well? So here's what it looks like for me when I click Content Template. a 2-column template color-coded guiding me to create the blog post. Let me walk you through it real quick. Hey, let's create some content. Step 1, what is the goal of this content and what is the main point? Is there a focus keyword to be used? Enter it here. What's the working title of this content? Give me the outline. And then you can start drafting on the right side, fill it out. And then even lower, there's some post-production elements such as SEO. You could create a revision list. You could check off if it was published and write the date. You could check off if you've shared it to your relevant social platforms. And this can all be redesigned. The number one principle that I just realized that we need to add, it's a bigger macro principle. Anytime you can do things once, do them well. That's not a very good way to say that, and I'd love to see if someone can say it better for me in the chat. Anytime you do something repetitive and you can just do it once and do it right, that's an important element. I want to rewrite this. This is not correct. It's more like when you build automation, spend time up front to save huge time down the line. That's what it is. Okay? So if you create a good template for yourself, you're just moving way faster through the process. Imagine you're like, I need to create a blog post. 1 click into COMMANDR, 2nd click into content template, and you are just trusting your system. Okay, this is already built into COMMANDR 1.0, so you can already steal this if you want. How do you steal this? That's a more intermediate step that we're going to cover a little later. Okay, I want to start again from scratch now. I've just kind of briefed you and I've reconnected you back to COMMANDR, but now I'm going to start fresh and I'm going to build COMMANDR for you right in front of you. Okay, I'm going to delete all this and start again because there's actually a better way to start and it's more exciting. And I think you can kind of follow along, at least in your head. Okay, so let's start building COMMANDR by setting out the key zones. So I'm going to go /heading2. I don't want it too big. And I'm going to type action zone. I'm going to press Control D, which will duplicate that. And I'm going to type review zone. I'm going to press Control D again, and I'm going to type in here the vault. I'm going to drag the vault to the right and create a second column. I'm going to move the column to the right, and then I'm going to set a color behind the vault with a background of blue. I'm going to set a background behind action with green and review background action. Let's make it brown. Notice how the review zone block is the full width. All I need to do is put it right underneath action zone and it will come into the column form. Let's now start creating the vault of information we need. And here's how you should start. You should start with what is called all pillars. Okay. And this is a database table. So I went page, I selected the table and it gave me a full width table. Your other option, just to remind you, is to type all pillars, go to the 6 dots, turn into, sorry, that's not correct. The correct is to press plus, find full width table, full page table. That's the other way you can get it. Okay, I'm not going to use this one. I already started one. That's the last time I'm going to show that. That's kind of a nature, software nature you need to develop. So what are pillars? Pillars are the things that hold up your life. Without your pillars, you can potentially have a catastrophe in your life. So the first thing I would do is I would set the different areas of my life that are important. I would go into the select tab and I would type home/life. I would type business and maybe personal growth. I think these are some good pillars to consider, at least the categories of pillars, but within each there's multiple. So you can just remove these by clicking on the X as you highlight it. So the real pillars are home, family, personal admin, product development for you entrepreneurs, sales and marketing, business admin, branding and audience, client execution for those of you who have services, health and fitness, and learning. These are enough, okay? You can add more, but if you can add whatever pillars you want. It's not for me to tell you what are the best pillars, but these are kind of the common ones, and anyone can really see that. And if you're using this, it's very likely you are an entrepreneur, right? Typically, people with jobs, they're not going to be using Notion to somehow create a command center because they're forced to use their business's system, right? So this is when you're your own business. Notion is nice because it allows you to create your own system very fluidly. Okay, so from pillars, now this is where the system starts to make a lot of sense. I hope you thought about your Ikigai a little bit, but it's okay if you don't and you don't want to use that system. You can still be very goal driven. The next thing I would do is I would go back into COMMANDR and under all pillars, I would create something new called all goals. So I'd go make another database. So the first part of this whole thing is doing our databases. Okay, but here's what's interesting. At this point now, I'd actually come back to all pillars and I'd create a relation to my goals. So if I type all goals, it should come up. Okay. And now what's cool is I can actually set a goal here based on my pillars. That way, you are getting goals that are balanced. You're not all in one area. You're not letting one area drop. Now, everyone's going to have different goals. Okay. Let's put in some general goals. Home. Maybe you want to buy a home. Okay. I mean, that's something you could put. That's something I'm thinking about. Now, watch what happens. Once I type that, you can create a new page, buy a home. So I click that. I've got buy a home. Great. If I go back to my goals, there it is. Buy a home is already in here. So my goal has been set for me, and then I can come deal with this after. But this is a two-pronged attack. Not only am I giving you a system, I'm also showing you a way to build your life with sort of a principled and goal-driven, pillar-driven approach. Okay, family. Maybe you want to take your family out every Saturday. That's your goal. Let's create that. Now, we don't have to set one for everything, but we could. Maybe for branding, you're like, get my YouTube channel to 1,000 subscribers. Create a new page. Health and fitness. Join Aikido group for exercise improvement. Oops. I didn't set it as a page. Okay, so that's how you can create your goals. Now notice here it says column. I might want to rename that to goals to remind myself. So what do we have so far? We have a general framework of what makes your life effective, and you should come in here and potentially set one goal for all of these. But I actually don't like doing that. I actually like to have goals not in everything. And I switch them and I change them over the quarters. And maybe right now you're doing one thing, but let's say I do buy a home in 3 months. Well, then that's not my goal anymore. Maybe I shift into business admin. It's like I dealt with my home. Let me, focus on my business, right? So you can set whatever pillars you want, and then you can set whatever goals you want. Okay. What's next? Well, I would come over to all goals now and I would take a look at what's happening over here. I would make sure that things are lining up and looking good. So how would you construct your goals database? Well, we always love tags. And what I would say for tags here, something like status, is this an active goal? Or is this a future goal? Is this an achieved goal? I think those are all reasonable. And I would adjust colors to be a bit more appropriate. Okay. Stay with me. It's going to come full circle. Notice here I can see the pillars. Maybe that's important to you. Maybe that isn't. As you go down the hierarchy of information, you might not need to know the reverse information. You may or may not. What you can do is you can right-click and hide the column because it's just the relationship reverse. It has to be added to the database in order to set the relation. To get it back, you go to properties and you can turn it back on. What else makes sense about goals? Timelines. Okay, so when do you want to achieve this, right? Is this 0 to 3 months? And let's change this into a selector. Is this 3 to 6 months? Is this 6 to 12 months? Is this 1 to 2 years? Is this 3 to 5 years? And that's probably as far I'd go. I would say 3 to 5 years plus or something like that. Now you can kind of get a sense of what's urgent, what's happening now. You could set a time, an exact time, but here's the thing. Sometimes goals, they're too broad and you don't know how long it's going to take, right? How do I know how long it's going to take me to get a blue belt? How do I know how long it's going to take me to get 1,000 subs, right? I know how long it could take me to get 30 videos, but I don't know when I'm going to get subs. So timelines are important to guide that and maybe not necessarily having exact dates. We will use exact dates as we get into the project set of information. So if you can't visualize it already, it's pillars driven by your Ikigai, goals driven by your Ikigai. We're going to objectives next, then projects, then tasks. Goals, objectives, projects, tasks. What ends up happening is every task is linked to the greater goal. That way, you don't waste time doing things that you didn't plan to do. If it's not in the system, why are you doing it? If you can't tell which goal it's linked to, why are you doing it? It might not be a bad thing. It might be a fun thing. Make sure your goal is to have more fun then. No problem. And hey, no one needs to be like watching you like a prisoner. You are in control. You can break the rules if you want, but the system's designed to be a system, right? You do follow a process, okay? Coming back into the Commander area, as we continue to build this out, the next thing is the objectives. Another full page table, all objectives. We could come back to goals now. And let's hide the pillars, But let's create a relation from the goals to the objectives. Interesting. All objectives. Related objectives. So now that I have objectives, and if you don't know what the difference between a goal and objective is, a goal is basically a vague general direction that you feel good about going towards, whereas an objective is something very specific, very pinpointed. It's like, we must do this exactly. The goal is more of the direction. The objectives are more of the milestones along the way. One of the things I don't like is SMART goals, because I don't think goals should be smart. I think objectives should be smart. I think goals should be visionary oriented. Goals should be philosophically driven. Goals should be bigger than you can imagine in some cases. So let's say I want to focus on get my YouTube channel to 100 subs, 1,000 subs. That's a very common goal for the modern content creator. That's sort of a nice milestone. And that's a bit specific. So it might be like, grow my YouTube channel to respectable levels. That could mean something different to everyone. It could mean continue to grow. And now here could be something like, well, the first objective I'm going to need to make the videos to get there, right? So I'm going to have to add an objective that says probably something like create 4 videos per month. That's my objective. If I was just the CEO and I was talking to my team and I wanted to hit my goal of growing my YouTube channel, I would direct my team to publish a certain amount of content within the resources we are capable of, right? So it's very sensible objective here, just volume of content. You could add more than one objective. You could also say, interview 2 popular niche authorities. So basically like doing a podcast, essentially. It's like, I need to not only publish my own content, but I need to reach out and collaborate, because that will help me grow. You see how you might have multiple objectives that might be multiple people doing them in a business. Now, this is going to be all you. Okay. And that's why I don't set 9 goals. 3 to 4 goals at any given time is typically good enough. In fact, 1 goal might be better for many of you. So what am I doing? You're seeing this pattern. It's create a new database, go 1 level up, relate the database, and fill in from the higher top-down perspective. You ever heard someone say, take a 30,000-foot view? That means look at your business from the big picture, setting goals. Where are we going? Objectives is a little bit lower, but you draw the decisions from the top. Okay. So let's say I want to buy a home. Might have a couple objectives. Get pre-approved for mortgage. Get an agent. Okay. We go back over to the objectives. You can see sometimes these like extra spaces kind of are annoying, but you can just delete them. You can see they are populating. My objectives are here. Now, do you ever just come into your database and look at all your objectives? Not really. Not too often. Maybe a part of your review period. But similarly, I would also set a status. And I think statuses are personal, customizable, up to you. But as you get lower into more of a task-oriented thing, you're not going to use sort of active and future. You're going to do more so to do, in progress, complete, on hold, future, next up. Those are the 6 that I typically think about. right? You do have things that are in these phases. Okay, it's to do. But when? Tomorrow? Sometime? Well, we don't know yet. But next up, that's very clear. It's the next thing we're doing. Once it's going, it's in progress. That's a separate stage. Uh-oh. Something happened. It's on hold. We'll come back to it. Future. Don't even bother me about it right now. It's future. And then complete. It's done. It was completed. And even though there's multiple statuses, one thing I like to do at this phase is start creating another column called checkbox. And it's just another way to signal that it's complete. I like checking the box. I think it feels good to check the boxes every week as you review what you've done. And I think that there's some cool ways you can use these checkboxes later on. So as we get into some of these task-oriented styled databases, I do like both the status and the complete because they can both be used in different ways. What I would do at this point, I'd start considering maybe making all these the same color because they're all part of this macro vision. Once you get into a project, you're kind of more specific, and I think of it as slightly different than goals and objectives. Where do you go next? Projects and tasks. Things can start getting blurry now. Okay, and I think you have to look at what you do and decide how to run all these. Because even in objectives, what did I put? Get an agent. It's not a bad objective, but it can be almost like a project as well. So you really have to decide like where things kind of lie for you. And you'll see there may be some overlap and you may have to adjust. But if you don't set enough of these levels, then you can't get the effects that I've been mentioning. Then you can't get the specialized views. Then everything becomes a little bit too mashed up. Wow, we're already at 4:40. Let me take a breather here. Do we have any questions so far about what's going on? Okay. Let's complete a few more of the key databases. Let's build all projects. Where do you brainstorm mind map? Yes, Miro. And if you wanted to note, you can embed Miro into these boards. So you could see your whole Miro board and edit it right inside of here. Do you set a vision? Yes, but it doesn't belong in the COMMANDR. If it did, it could be in the vault under sort of a content piece called My Vision. You could do that. You absolutely could do that. But the vision is sort of spelled out in the goals. So up to you. When you walk away from this workshop, you should understand the core elements that you can actually just like stop watching right now and almost start doing what we're doing, and you would learn on your own. There's just a few more things you don't know about, but the goal is the skill, not the copying of the system, because everyone here does things slightly different. And if you can adjust them as you go, you'll be a lot better off. Again, and I can't force the time it takes to teach this. For those of you who won't be able to join tomorrow or the next day, if it even takes that long, I'm sorry. This is the only way I can do it for free. You have to be patient. This will be available after the fact on my channel or broken up in smaller videos, richanish.com/commander. But I don't feel the need to rush necessarily, and some of these parts are a bit slow. If you can get over this hump, you'll be in great shape. Let's now move into projects. I'm going to create a full page table, all projects. And I'm not going to do the same thing as going backwards and then filing down. I'm just going to start from here this time. Even though the objective for that one goal was create 4 videos a month, you could still have a project called YouTube production or something like that. You could call it like Q1 2021 YouTube production. Now, what are the key columns for projects? And they start getting a little bit more unique, okay? But the first one is that same status tag that I just taught you to do. In progress, complete, future, on hold. What else? Up next. Now, you don't always see them all, right? Because I just created them. What I just do, I'm just creating them right now. You don't have to have them all out if they're not necessary. But why not have the real statuses that are out there? Now, I would start getting into a due date here. So you go into the date column, and I might write either due date or by when. Due by when. Okay? So this is going to be due by January 15th. We need the whole content going by January 15th, let's say. Okay, the next thing I like to do is add another selector. And I like to call this one priority. Because as you get more projects, you'll simply want to know in your own mind which is the priority. And so it's as simple as priority 1, priority number 2, priority number 3. Man, hard to spell. Priority number 4. And I go as high as 5. So now we have status, priority, by when. This is looking good, right? Let's go back one level now that we've filled that out. Let's go back to our objectives and let's relate projects now to objectives. You still need to go through that process, even though we didn't do it right away. You really want to connect as many databases as makes sense. Not every database needs to be connected, but the more, the better. And then you just get a plethora of automation, a plethora of data building. So here we are, create 4 videos per month. Let me set the project. And maybe you're like, is this redundant? Like, do I need to do all this? Well, no, if you only have 1 project. But if you've got 6, this could be very helpful, right? And I think we're all getting to this point where we're like, we're running ourselves thin. I've heard that a bunch of times this week. And it's like, yeah, guys, I get it. It's called going into a recession when money isn't worth as much and there isn't a strong economy. You're going to be a bit thin for a while. That doesn't get you off the hook from being organized. Like no one said it's all easy and all fun and games right now. And that's why we have to be a bit more hardcore. Take a commanding approach. So I linked up the projects, which is nice. Right? And now I'm just getting a bigger sense of everything I'm doing. And it's all going to start to make a little bit more sense once we can get over to the action zone. But we can't really get over the action zone until we go the next level, and that's all tasks. Because tasks are really what you do. Oopsies. That was a mistake. And so the tasks are going to be the things you look at. Now, I need to warn you. We're in such a complicated world where we do so many things and so many things have all these steps that I actually break down it into projects, components, and tasks. But some people might say just do tasks, keep it more simple, and I don't blame them. But let me give you an example. Let's say my project is create an ebook. Like, there's a lot of tasks to that. And the task might be get your ebook up on Amazon Kindle. But do you know the steps there to do that? But is the project getting your book up on Amazon Kindle? Not really. The project is finishing the book. The task is going onto the Amazon website and filling out the forms. But the component is get it up on Amazon, which is a multi-step process. So my point is, you may want to do what I do, and that's actually break things down into components, but you're adding extra work. But what you get out of that extra work is more clarity. Because let's say you start writing your ebook. Let's say you're on the final draft. Is finish final draft a task, a project? No, it's more of a component that has its own editing and process elements. So by having the components layer, you're essentially creating 3 levels: projects, components, and tasks. Because projects these days, as a solopreneur, often have marketing elements. Some of you here may not be marketers, some of you may. But for those of you who aren't really marketers, you are doing a project with all these extra marketing things: social media, Facebook ads, YouTube videos, SEO, web pages, sales pages. Those aren't tasks, but those also aren't projects. And that's what I've discovered, is you may actually want to break this down a little further. And it was that realization that also said to me, wow, like, this requires a complete system to build and manage all of this information. So I'm just going to create these databases. Notice I write the word all tasks. It really helps in finding the specific page via search. Let's try to complete one project with components with tasks. YouTube production. Let's add in components. Relation. All components. Let's create tasks relationship. If my project is to develop all the YouTube production for the quarter, and the objective is to do 4 a month, what does that tell you? 12 videos. I would say all of those videos are their own components. So what you could start doing is video 1, video 2, video 3, video 4. Okay? Why would I do it as simple as that? Because that way I can be sure I'm going to hit my objective really clearly. Although the project is a bit vague because it contains so many elements, it's very clear that my components will lead to my objectives, because the next thing I could do is go into the components and set due dates that are commensurate with creating 4 videos per month. Now, within each video, there's tasks, right? So at this point, I might go out and go into my components, just delete these empties. I can see my components, video 1. I might create my same status tag as always. To do, I'm just going to do the short one this time. In progress, completed. Those three are the basics. You can get away with those three. Okay, so if all these are to do, what I can now do is relate to the tasks one level lower. Might even drag it closer. Notice before we related the project to the components, the project to the tasks. We just did something different here. We related the components to the tasks. If you thought of this as like a big pyramid, you would realize why the top one is connected to everything all the way down, but the bottom level isn't necessarily connected to the second level reverse, if you know what I mean. That might be complicated, but it's all about falling down rather than like spilling up. So maybe it's tasks, okay? So it's like brainstorm. And these might be repetitive, right? You might have the same task over and over when you do a certain component. And your alternative would be inside the component, if you only did one thing, you could create that template. And within the template, you could have like the tasks laid out. But what if you're working with a subcontractor, right? And they edit your videos. That's not going to be quite as easy, right? I'm going to keep this a little simple. Okay, so we have 4 tasks for this video. What happens if we copy paste? Let's do that again. Now let's go over to all tasks. Interesting. Be careful. When you copy paste, it actually copied the same task to all videos. That's actually not what we want. You actually want differentiated tasks, separate tasks that are related to that specific video. So you'd have to create it separately by going here again, and you would click brainstorm again. You would rewrite them all out. And this is called project management. You're like, oh, this is so hard and takes time. It's like, yes, it's called project management. And this is what the project manager does is they plan it all out and they ensure that you hit it, right? I don't want to write them all out to save time. Okay. And this components should have a due date as well. Say video 1 needs to be done by next week. Video 2 needs to be done the week after. Video 3 the week after. And let's just assume that all gets us to our bigger project date of Jan 25th, right? You'd want all that to be related. Now, I want to just test something here really quick. Okay, notice what I just did here. This is very important. Now that I've done that, and this might be a bit redundant, but I want you to see what can happen here. Either I can take this project and directly relate it to the tasks, or that would take time, or I could delete this, click the plus, and I could go and do a roll up. The roll up is configured. Notice the configuration. You have to put the roll up and then you got to configure the roll up. You select the relation and then you grab the tasks from that relation and it pulls up for you automatically. I'm noticing this second brainstorm, and that's because all the components are here. If I deleted these components, none. All of them were built on video 3. Put video 3, it brought in all of video 3's tasks. So you just saw your first roll-up data, okay? And you're going to have different methods for setting these up. You're going to come up with your own ideas of what's important for you. This is not the most important part yet. This is the basics of database building. Okay, we're almost at the important part. The important part is visualizing the data in a more useful way. Let's start doing that now. Okay, let's now move into the next chapter of this course, which is setting up your action zone. We've built out some key vaults, and I'm just going to quickly change the color of these to denote that they're kind of all in a package. It's like pillars, goals, objectives, projects, components, tasks. And we're going to get some other ones down here. We're going to get notes, contacts. What else are we going to get down there? Let me think. Maybe reports, services. We're going to get those databases eventually. We don't need them right now. What we have right now is the ability to start planning out our work and showing ourselves what we need to do. So what would you want in your action zone? Well, what I would want is fast checklists, urgent tasks, urgent and important tasks. What else would I want? Ability to take a note and save it. I think these are the 3 things you really want in your action zone. So we're going to be building them all in different ways. So now is when we start getting into our toggles. Okay, so /toggle. The first toggle is called quick routines. Press enter, you automatically get another toggle. This one's going to be tasks. It's going to be do tasks. Start quick routines. And finally, create note. You see how I'm writing them in the action verb? That way you feel like you're doing something. So let's go into quick routines and let's talk about those template buttons. So what are some routines you might typically do every day, right? Depends. Like if you're a boss, if you're a manager, if you're a coach, if you're a content creator, you might have all sorts of different things. Okay. But let me just show you some basic ones. And now what you need to do is go into the plus sign and scroll all the way to the bottom. Go to template button. In alternative, you can type /template button and click that. It opens up a brand new dialog box, which is a bit overwhelming. It's also highlighted, which is kind of weird. But basically, up here is the button. It's called, right now it says +, add a new to-do. You can change that, okay? So I might call this morning routine. Then I'm able to write in some of the things I want to do. So morning routine, maybe it's like brush teeth, meditation, reading, coffee, whatever you do, okay? So that's how simple it is. And now when I click close, I'm left with this button, right? And I can't see it, but when I go in, I can quickly click that and I'm prompted with 4 checkboxes. That's the basic version. Guess what? If you go into the settings of this, you can put anything in here. You could put a whole system of itself in here. You could put a whole self-guided system that populates on the click of a button. It's very powerful. Like, let me give you an example. Maybe I want to maybe I want to review my pillars. And when I click this, it just brings up my pillars. When I click it again, it puts up the page. I mean, this is endless capability. So you want to get going on this one today. You want to start putting in some of your core routines. Let me show you a few more of my core routines. Let me add another template button. I call this one client sweep. Depending on what you do for your client, for me, it's like this: check Slack, check Instagram, check Facebook page, check Twitter, check LinkedIn. And what I'm doing is I just want to quickly make sure there's no emergencies. So client number 1, sweep, check Slack, done. Check Instagram, check. Guess what? You can highlight this and you could put a link to the Twitter account. One click, you're over on your Twitter or your client's Twitter. So you can build the functionality into the templated routine. This is endless. And when I'm done, you just highlight them and press backspace. And that's why I always write, keep it clean. Because if you don't finish it and keep it clean, this starts to get unruly. Okay? So what you want to do, if it's left over, no worries. I want to fix this one. I want to delete it actually. If you don't finish it and you're like, oh, I got to go. And let's say you close the window and then you come back and it's like, oh yeah, I didn't do this. Well, that's good. You can either do it or you can say, I'm not doing it today. That's your prerogative. I mean, if that works for you, up to you, but maybe you have to do it. Make sure it gets done. When it's done or you've decided you're not going to complete it, you just grab it and you clean it up and you delete it. So first part of Action Zone actually has nothing to do with the databases yet. It's more about getting in your head quickly, like what I'm supposed to do and do it fast so that you don't have to think about what you do. These, remember, in every business, there's the people, in most cases, just you. There's the tools you use to get your work done. And then there's the process that you follow to achieve what you want, your deliverable, your output. This helps you understand what to do quickly. That's the point of this. This is not about managing the data quite yet, but this is so important that I put it first. Let us now build out our first shared or our first filtered view. Okay, so let's go back into all tasks and look at our tasks. Okay, let's just clean it up a bit. So we had a bunch of tasks related to video 3. Let's put some more tasks for video 2 and video 1. Let's actually create a few different tasks. I feel this will be easier if we look at a few different. Let's create a second project. Let's call it Christmas campaign. Okay, it's in progress. Priority number 1, finished by the 25th. What objective is it related to? None of these because I didn't set up a good objective for this. But let's say the objective, let's say the pillar, let's go all the way back. Sales and marketing. I want to drive $10,000 of sales in December. Okay. Kind of drive 10,000 sales December. That's a bit of a specific goal, but like I said, I'm kind of annoyed. What's happening here is, notice again, I'll do it again. When you start typing in using this method, you have to wait for it to finish populating, then you can click it. Okay, so I've set the goal. I can now move into my objectives. If I have a goal, well, like we did before, you probably want to do it from the top down. So we go into goals. I was in pillars, not objectives. So I just forget everything I said in the last 20 seconds. I just misspoke. Coming from pillars, going into all goals. Here's my goal. Okay, my objective is to, run a Christmas campaign for 14 days. Okay, there's my objective. enter it into the system. Let's go down a level. Here's my objective, run the campaign. What about my project? Okay, well, what kind of campaign is it? Let's say it's Instagram content contest. Okay. Within that contest, and we can always just click through. We can, by the way, every time you have a database entry, that individual entry doesn't just have this table-based data. You can go in and add information in that specific note. And when you do that, it puts up a little icon like this to show you there's something inside here. You can use them both ways, but you'll see you will want to add data to individual entries as time goes on. Okay, the yellow ones are done. They kind of are separate. How you set your projects and objectives aren't necessarily how you run your projects and tasks. So now that I'm in projects and I have this Instagram contest, what are the components to that? Well, perhaps it's the content. And perhaps it's the draw mechanism. You have to figure out how are you going to draw the person for the contest. And then you're going to have like the contest plan, live stream plan. Okay, this is something like what I did recently. So all these components are bigger than tasks, right? I can't just do one task, content for IG. Project managing. Okay. All components are now showing. You can enter some tasks. Let's do a task for the content for IG. Let's put draft content, develop images, upload and caption, schedule, automation. Let's just say those are what we're going to do. Now what we have is more tasks. I wanted to get some more tasks in there so that when I look at the task database, I see a variety of different tasks. And when I look at this, I'm like, what does all this mean, right? I don't know what all this is, right? That's the problem. When you get too many tasks, you can't look at it anymore. And it becomes annoying and you stop using your system. And that's the next part we're going to learn is how do we see exactly what we want? So what I'm doing here is I'm imagining that I've completed and some of these tasks are in progress, right? If tasks are in progress, everything up the chain is activated for that purpose. The project must be active if tasks are being completed. Okay, so now this is the next step. I think would also be good to add a date here. When is it due? Due date or by when? Let's just check some random dates off here and get this populated. I think that is suitable for now, because now what we can do is we can go over into our due tasks area. And this is the first time we're going to be pulling up a table view. So how do you do this? You go to the database you'd like to copy, and you can use the 6 buttons or the 3 buttons. Copy the link over to your area and paste it in. Control V or right click, and then create a linked database. Now, we haven't really done much. All we've done is we've brought over the exact same data that is in the all tasks database. Notice a little annoying problem that I've discovered so far is I've got tags, status tags, due date, and components. But over here, when it brought it in, it put them in reverse, tags, components. So you sometimes have to just quickly rearrange these things, get the columns the way you want them. And I always like to shrink the columns as low as possible take up as little space as possible. But the next step is critical. Here is where you begin to filter. And when you click on the 3 dots up here for the table, you see filter and you go into filter. How would you filter data? What would you want to do here? Well, first of all, I don't think it's very important to see what's complete. So the very first filter we might use, because why do we need to do tasks if they're complete? The thing we would do is we would create a filter, add a filter, and where tags does not contain complete, watch what happens on the screen. They'll disappear. They've just been filtered out, and now filter is highlighted. If I went does contain, it's the opposite. It only shows you what's complete. Now your brain starts ticking. Now you start to see the combination of a database, a shared linked view with filters allows you to start looking at exactly what you want. Now, once you filter, you might want to sort. Wouldn't you want to sort things by date? You can either right-click the column and sort ascending, or you can go to the 3 dots, go to sort, and set up the sorting you want. In this case, we want date ascending. Now the dates are in order, and we can see, oh, December 15th is 3 days away, and this is still to do. That's important. That's what I'm seeing here. I'm in action, and I want to see what I need to do next and what's going on. If it's in progress, fine. Maybe I still need to look into it. But you know it is not complete and it is due. The next thing you might do is, let's say I wanted to separate in progress from to do. Well, what you could do is you could create 2 new toggles inside of here. Toggles inside toggles. And one could be tasks to do, tasks in progress. And so in this case, let's filter so that it only shows to do. Then let's drag this inside the toggle. We can duplicate this. It's just a shared view, and then change the filter to contain in progress. And then we can put this one inside this toggle. Then we can close them. And that's an option. The more you get complex with this, you may need this second level of information. Okay, what's to do? Right, I've got to brainstorm video 3, and then I've got to edit video 3. Okay. And what am I doing already? What's in progress? Oh yeah, I'm working on the IG content, it seems. Okay. Are you following me so far? We are at 75 minutes. I'm going to need to stop soon. The next thing you might do is go into the tasks and set another column called nature. And it's a selector. And the selectors are urgent, important, do it later, delegate it. All right, so you could put another tab over here, and then you could use this tab to secondarily filter the information. So instead of to do and in progress, you could switch to urgent or important. Urgent tasks. And then I would switch the filter to tags contains to do and tags and nature contains urgent. Now you're only looking at what's urgent and what to do. We haven't gotten into alternative views, but since it's coming up in the chat, I want you to see that you can click add a view. And instead of doing it this way, with these toggles, you could set different views inside of here. So you could create urgent table view, urgent view. And under urgent view, it has its own filter set. Let's go back into task and set a few more as urgent, set a few more as important, and one is do it later. Okay, so the urgent is being shown here in the view. And so you can have multiple views. There's the default view that we came in with, and we could remove all the filters for this. So this could be called all tasks. And then when you want to see urgent, you just pull over to urgent. So you can do it different ways. But what's also cool about views is there's other kinds of views. So we can go into a Kanban style. If that's the way it works better for you, you can have a Kanban. Okay, and so you can move things over. Notice it's pulling up urgent, important, do it later. That's not what you want. You want to go up here. You want to go to properties. And maybe you want to go to group by tags. There we go. And then you can come over here and you can hide the no tags. And now you've got a Kanban that you can drag things over as they're done. I don't typically use this. I think it's easier just to look in the standard table view. There's a couple more views. All right, you might want to know what the list view. I like this for notes, not for tasks, but the list view reduces the amount of information on the screen. And you can just see these things, but you don't have any of the other access. Sometimes, for instance, you might be in all tasks and it's like, oh yeah, I need to schedule the automation, but let me just go look at the component, and you're one click away from the component and its world. So that's the difference between tasks and list view. List view, you get the key info and you can add more info here under properties. You can add that info back if you want. It definitely cleans it up a little bit. This is not necessary. It's a nice option. And then there's a brand new feature called timeline. And this is beautiful, but you need to spend more money to get this feature. And basically everything is brought in on its due date. If you had have set a start date and an end date, these things would have these time elements. And so this is really nice that I can just come in here, drag this all out and be like, yeah, that's going to take that long. And then we're going to do that. And you get to control all the dates. If I come back now to the tasks, you'll even see some end dates have been added. I've just overwhelmed you. This is too much to learn in one day. I'm very sorry about that. But unfortunately, that's just the way it goes when you learn something like this. That's why I've promised that I'll leave this up and give you access to rewatch it. There's a learning curve. Don't become frustrated yet. The next thing you should do is start rewatching this stream and building out your databases, building out your vault. Okay, in the next video tomorrow, I'm going to go more into some more unique elements such as the content area where I showed you that template. I'm going to show you how to gather all your notes, whether they're meetings, ideas, content, where we can put them in one area and we can use tags to denote them and control them. Okay, so we're on our way. We did fast checklists with our start quick routines. We started getting our urgent and important tasks. And the next thing we're going to do is work on notes. Notion is a note system. It's all about notes. A note can mean so many things, but we're going to learn how to control our notes. I want to bring you back to COMMANDR 1.0 and just show you that we are building the exact same thing I'm telling you. One of the downsides to this type of workshop is how long it takes me to actually enter in the project data. And I think that you're going to get a lot more excited and enjoy this process once your data is entered and you put a real project in and you put your real contacts in. This is going to be fun. You probably didn't feel like those related databases were that strong, but that's because those were all action-driven databases. What happens when you link projects with clients? What happens when you link clients with services? All of a sudden, you can start tracking things relevant to each other, like how many tasks did this client require, and then what was the time based on those tasks. You can get really quite wild with it. I think I'm going to stop here officially. I might quickly review the chat to see where we're at and take any questions so far. I'm going to be back tomorrow to continue on, probably with the third and final day of this workshop. We're going to fill out the rest of the databases. We're going to create some of these other sections. And primarily, I want you to walk away with some of these templates that are so useful, that will just simply not only get your organization going, but I've just never had a chance or a place to give you guys anything like this before. My feedback from the people using this is very high. I've heard things like, Rich, I was stuck on an article for months and this system just helped me work through it. Hey, what can I say? It's coming from my actual workflow, so that's probably why it works. This is a glorified to-do list. Yes. But you show me how to manage 250 to-dos. Because if you are operating without this, you're probably doing a lot of things you don't need to do. And that's a problem. But it's more than a to-do list. It really is. It's more. It's the linking that will bring in revelation and insight over time. I can't really explain it too well because it's even beyond me. I'm only 2 steps ahead of you. I'm not 10 steps ahead. I'm just getting you onboarded to your own system. If you don't think this would work for you, it's quite possible you don't have that much work. I have at times managed 10 projects at once. I'm now down to about 5 to 6. I think it's critical. I like it. And this is free. I understand not everyone thinks this is valuable. That's why I'm doing it this way. I don't know what this is worth. I think to the right person, all this stuff is life-changing. I think to someone who has a job and really isn't doing much on their own, this isn't useful. This is a command system for a commander. If you're not a commander and you don't want to command your time, your value, and your mind, and reduce the overwhelm of everything all over in all these different spots, and once and for all create a system where you know that if you stick to it, there's no possible way that you couldn't be more efficient than without it, than with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get away without doing this, but you are not reaching your potential by any means. I know this is a bit convoluted at this beginning point, but it's the twofold of the power of the system and your commitment to the system. Anytime we commit to systems, we grow. It's just the bottom line. You may not need that system. That's a whole other question. But to operate without systems cannot be correct in this type of landscape. Is there an all pillar section in Commander 1? Probably not. No, there isn't. There isn't. It's an optimization. And by the end of this workshop, we'll be on Commander 1.1. This becomes more important when you're running a team. I agree. When you have to oversee what others are doing, especially, it's very, very valuable. Looks like Jessica says she's had a huge leap in Notion proficiency. That's wonderful. Trust me, guys. One of my underlying teaching philosophies is to teach you things that are relevant, but my trick is to get you using the software anyways. If I know I can get people onto Notion, Miro, Airtable, these main tools, I just know you're going to figure it out. It's this resistance to even get in and dive in and do this sort of 3 to 4 hour process of like, what does everything do? And now you've watched someone use it for 2 hours. It's so much more intuitive than you're just like, where do I even click? Because there's a lot of click spots here. So in the future of COMMANDR, when you get a little further, you have another session called SOPs. And below here are your key processes. So you mix SOPs with process. You mix databases with SOPs. Something like this, you know? Let me go back, sorry. You're gonna have another section down here called SOPs as well. You're gonna come here and not only are you gonna know what to do, what's next to do, but how to do it that's aligned with best practices. Looks like Tiago Prem saying he got a major Notion upgrade. And that's the thing, guys. If I just showed you the relationship database, you might come up with something brand new that's better for you. But as long as you knew what that feature is, you will be able to have that potential insight. If you're just putting in the notes, you're just using Evernote. If you start using the databases, and I think tomorrow we're going to go deeper on that, you'll really start feeling confident of why you'd want to use a database, because a database is also a commitment to one place. It's the base of all the data. Okay, so I think we're on a good track. I like what I hear. This is going to be so great for someone who wants to manage someone who's managing. Oh yeah, because everything is communicatable. Exactly, Jeff. I think Jeff is really hitting a lot of high points in this chat. I really appreciate everything you added. Great, guys. I think I'm going to call it a night. We're at 90 minutes. Bless you all. It's so nice to have some people to hang out with and contribute some value to on a Saturday, 12/12/2020. Great day, beautiful day. Sunny out here in Cold Valley, Western British Columbia. I know we're all getting a little tired. We need some energy. So call it a night. Get yourself some dinner. Spend some time with your family. Call your mom, call your dad, call your grandma, call your sister. Tell them you love them. It's a tough time. We need more love, guys. Trust me on that. That's the takeaway. That's the surprise takeaway. I just tricked you into all that. Brought you all the way here to tell you to love more. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Joven. Thank you, Kyle, Janu. Peace be with you all. May the algorithms be ever in your favor. Cheers, guys, and good night. See you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific.